Hello everyone, welcome to our Let's Play series of Shadowrun Dragonfall. This is Colonel RPG as usual, and I'm very happy that you're chose to join me today in the aftermath of the whole game, really. I'm not sure, it's just called 1 year later. It's the end. We're supposed to read things, and we're gonna read things over there, but we also have a research terminal over here, excuse me, that I believe wasn't opened when we came over here, so let's find out. This terminal has two monitors attached to it, and we have containment. New strain of Vitas discovered. UCAS declares Chicago containment zone. The UCAS federal government declared a quarantine area between Lake Michigan and the Des Plaines River today. The quarantined area, dubbed the Chicago containment zone, is meant to contain a new strain of Vitas. And I'm not actually sure what Vitas is. This is this year. This is not the CSMDS or whatever the draconic virus was supposed to be. This is this year. This might be what the new threat is supposed to be, because he needs us to help out. Virally induced toxic allergy syndrome, that's what that is, it's the Vitas, is both extremely infectious and highly lethal. Two previous outbreaks of the disease, Strain 1 in 2010 and Strain 2 in the early 2020s, killed billions and reduced the world's population by over a quarter. Given the global pandemic of worm flu and the recent extinction of the dragons, the announcement of a new strain of Vitas has caused considerable panic throughout the UCAS, but local news sources from towns surrounding Chicago have offered conflicting reports about the CZ, that's the containment zone, and about what it meant to contain. According to these dissenting voices, the true danger from Chicago comes improbably in the form of a swarm of giant men-eating cockroaches. Assuming that these reports are not a hoax, the creatures have cut a bloody swath across every town they have appeared in, and the flow of insects out of Chicago shows no sign of slowing down. We have reached out to our contacts within the UCAS government for comment on these allegations, but as of the time of this report, they have not returned to our calls. And that was like in August, so we're in September at the very least, because the last report here is from September. And I hope we're going to learn more about that, but maybe we are not going to learn more about that. Maybe there's more, it's something... No, there's a CZ collapse. Let's learn about that. CZ labeled failure, UCAS government calls for corporate help. This morning, a mere 7 days after its construction, the UCAS federal government has officially abandoned the Chicago containment zone. It's kind of funny that it's called the construction of it, because it's not really what a containment zone is. Or not necessarily, anyway. Well, not even not necessary. Absolutely, it's not what it is. You can have a containment zone within like a wall, but you construct the wall, not the containment zone. The containment zone is defined. Like, for example, the containment zone around Chernobyl. Well, I say around Chernobyl. Around the nuclear power plant of... the fourth nuclear power plant of Chernobyl. It's a containment zone, and... actually, is it called an alienation zone rather than containment? Either way, the point is, there are places that... most of it is just surrounded by trees. It's not... there's no wall. It's just defined around 30 kilometers around it. I think they shrinked it the last few years. I'm not sure. Anyway, admitting that the CZ, quote, has not performed up to expectations, unquote, President Thomas Steele has appealed for assistance from corporate interests to stem the tide of monstrous insects flowing out of Chicago. So that is true. Ares whistleblower leaks Chicago bomb plans. A whistleblower from Ares Macrotechnology has leaked information that the corporation is planning to bomb Chicago. Metahuman casualties have been deemed, quote, acceptable losses, unquote, by the company's think tanks, and that's all one word, I think. Anyway, and the government has allegedly signed off on the plan. In the light of these allegations, protesters and supporters of the plan have clashed in bloody violence across the UCAS. Spokesmen from the UCAS government and the Ares Macrotechnology have derived these allegations as, quote, patently false, unquote, and have urged UCAS citizens to remain calm as they work together to engineer a solution to the Chicago crisis. And this is the Brigada Foster, apparently. I haven't been reading where these excerpts are from. And then we have a resolution. Nuclear devastation in Chicago. A massive nuclear strike launched early this morning has wiped the city of Chicago off the map. Nothing moves in the wreckage. A city of over 4 million people has been reduced to ash. An Ares spokesman has announced that, while regrettable, this morning's actions were necessary. The Chicago Hive posed an inestimable threat to the safety and security of the UCAS as a whole, and with the failure of the CZ, a nuclear strike was deemed to be the most viable remaining option. Meanwhile, reports of insect spirit activity in surrounding municipalities continue to flow in. There are rumors of small hives forming in Aurora, Arlington Heights, and Merrillville, and isolated reports of insect spirit activity have been reported as far north as Milwaukee. Scientists remain baffled as to why insect spirit activity has experienced such exponential growth in such a short period of time. Researchers have advanced theories involving everything from climate change to last year's worm flu outbreak, but there is no... That's probably... Yeah, this is the actual... It's not a hypothesis, it's actual theories, working theories, but without, validation and all that. You can't really say that's what they're saying here, but there's no clear consensus as of the writing of this article. Okay, so there's giant cockroaches coming in from Chicago, and they nuked the city. Which really puts things into context in regards to the worm flu situation that we did. Just a few thousand people died, and, well, according to the game, I somehow think that the flux state was probably bigger than a few thousand people, but still, yeah, they nuked Chicago. So, puts things into context, doesn't it? Research terminal, let's see this one. The terminal's screen, it's the only one, winks to life as you approach. At the upper left-hand side of the screen, a globe spins. The remainder of the display is filled with a text menu. And there's two things. Open the entry labeled Elvish Nations. Elvish Nations cut contact with the outside world. Early this morning, the Elvish nation of Tir Terngir and Tirna Nog went dark, quote-unquote, sealing their borders and severing all communications with their neighboring states. In wake of this development, California Free State and the UCAS have begun to strengthen their own borders with Tir Terngir. It looks, quote, "It looks to me like they're hunkering down," unquote, military analyst Sarah Alvarez told us, quote, "preparing themselves for a defensive war. This is unusual for a couple of reasons. One, there have been no recent indications of hostilities between the Tier nations and their immediate neighbors. And two, the Tier nations are located on different continents from each other," unquote. And this is weird. It feels like they're talking about an animal, not a nation. You don't, like, they have initiated, they went dark. And it just, it feels very much like they're talking about an animal. I think it's just, I'm not sure. I don't think that this is realistic writing. What I mean to say is that if a nation goes dark, you send people in there to find out what's going on. That's what you do. You don't, oh, they're probably going to war, preparing for war. No, they probably all died. That's what happened. They probably all died. In fact, you have extra reason to believe they all died because we have the freaking virus that killed a specific species on purpose. And you probably, well, realistically speaking, they would have known it was bioengineered because it's actually relatively easy to tell when it's bioengineered, when viruses are bioengineered. And conversely, it's also very easy to tell when they're not. Well, generally speaking, anyway. The point is, you don't talk about nations like that. If they go dark, you go and check into them. Because what happened? Where are the elves? And then the news would be, they went dark, we went to the border, and they shot us. But they're not talking about that. They're saying, oh no, they're probably, it's, and all that. Let's see. Quote, "Short of a global conflict, I can see what could threaten both Tir Nog and Tir Terngir," unquote, Alvarez continued. Quote, "Maybe the Council of Princes knows something that the rest of us don't. But whatever they're thinking, it's making a lot of people nervous," unquote. As of the writing of this article, no official statements from Tir Tangerine, Council of Princes, and the Tuata of many Elvish names have been released. And again, they went dark. They probably died. Are we to believe that they died? Let's find out. Oh, this is a recording, I think. The screen fills with a familiar image of a Horizon Corporation newsroom. A plastic-looking anchorman stands at his desk, flanked by a pair of attractive young newscasters. We're back with more details on the tragic events in Australia. Horizon News' own Taylor Nguyen? I never know how to pronounce this name. It's a pretty common name in Indonesia, I think? Either way, Taylor Nguyen, potentially, is live on the scene in Piermont with... Piermont? Could be. With more on this breaking story. Taylor, are you with us? The monitor... Okay, let's look at the thing. It looks like a Warzone sort of situation. The monitor behind him comes to life and a grainy video feed flickers onto the screen. A Eurasian newscaster stands on the edge of a scene of carnage, clutching her microphone close. An orc in work coveralls stands beside her, blinking against the glare of the noonday sun. Yes, John, I'm here. What's happening out there? It's a real mess out here, John. An absolute tragic situation. Just to refresh the viewers at home, the permanent mana storm that surrounded the city of Sydney... that was a benign mana storm, right? Asks the news anchor. For most people, it was basically harmless? Yes, that's right, John. Well, that mana storm exploded this morning into a new phenomenon that experts are calling a mana rift. I'm standing here in Piermont, and this is as close to Sydney as you can get. There are security cordons in place to keep traffic away, and we're being told that it's just not safe to venture any nearer. The news anchor says, it's probably good that you're keeping your distance, Taylor. We're hearing some frightening things about this rift. I'm looking at a statement from renowned hermetic theorist Elizabeth Alder, which I'm going to read to you now. And he squints up at his teleprompter as if he wasn't already reading from his teleprompter, which actually might be... That might be true, actually. Quote, he says, quote, this newly formed rift, unquote, again, these are the words of Dr. Alder, quote, has essentially dragged Sydney off of our plane of existence, or plane of experience, and into another, unquote. She goes on to say that, quote, the city and all of its people might still be out there somewhere, but they're no longer on this earth, not as we know it, unquote. And they cut back to Australia. That's what we're hearing out here too, John. The entire city of Sydney and everyone in it are just gone. In their place, there's a swirling ball of vibrant colors that stretches hundreds of meters into the sky. Our cameras go haywire if you point them directly at the rift, so we can't show you that, but take it from me, it is both spectacular and terrifying. Sounds scary, Taylor, says one of the reporters in the studio. Taylor says, it certainly is, but that hasn't stopped some daring individuals here from doing what they can to try to help. And she turns to face the orc, thrusting her microphone towards his face. He takes a reflective half-step backward. Sir, could you tell us your name and what you're doing here in Piermont today? Yeah, my name's Liam Foster, and I'm just a local mechanic, nothing special, you know. But when I heard about what was happening, I thought I should do something. So I've organized a grassroots search and rescue effort, and we're doing what we can to help these people. How have you tried to help the city of Sydney? What have you been doing so far? He shuffles uncomfortably. Well, we've got aid stations set up for anyone who comes back through the rift. If anyone comes back through, they've got food, water, blankets, and that kind of thing. I also sent in a few drones, but I lost contact with them as soon as they went in. I see, and have you done anything else? We sent some volunteers, brave chaps, and, you know, they walked into the rift itself, carrying food and water and towing rope lines. My own cousin went in there. He does his best to force a smile. Haven't seen any of them come back yet, but there's still hope. Chilling news, Taylor, says the news anchor back in the studio. We'll all be rooting for those brave volunteers back here at home. Thanks, John. Yeah, thanks, says Liam Foster. Oh, that's the orc that she was interviewing. Back in the studio, stay tuned for more news about the Sydney Rift, as it comes in, and for more on-location reporting from our own Taylor Nguyen. Potentially, the N could be mute, I don't know. Not mute, silent, that's the word. The screen flickers again and goes black. Right. So, I think it's the magical events that he was talking about. We got the victory report, but that's a different thing. We've already messed with that. At least I think so. This is the research terminal. Wait a minute. There's a scientist in here. I didn't connect the dots yet. What does the old man have you doing in here? The same thing that you're doing. I'm trying to help reverse whatever's happening to the world. Now please let me get back to work, she says. Okay. The screen winks to life at your approach. And we have background count. The last one is parazoological threats. It's on the 10th of October, 2055. Let's open the entry labeled background count. That's from July. Global background count rising. Dr. Jake Hansen is one of the world's foremost experts in mana dynamics. He's taken a break from his own research to travel to my lab. Since he's arrived, he's spent the better part of the day poring over reams of data that my team collected. Straightening, he looks me in the eye, and his normally jovial expression has turned grim. Quote, "We're in trouble, Liz," unquote, he says. Dr. Hansen's proclamation confirms that what I already know. Still, I wince. I was hoping he'd find something to prove me wrong. To explain why we're in trouble, I'll first have to introduce a piece of meta-magical terminology to you. Background count. In Hermetic theory circles, the term background count refers to the intensity of magical saturation in a location. A rating of 0 is neutral, and as the amount of concentrated mana in a location increases, the scale goes up. Outside of freak mana storms, the highest background counts ever recorded have come from places like Hiroshima and I pronounced it in the English way, which is sort of weird because I've always been pronouncing it the Portuguese way, which is very close to the Japanese way. Hiroshima, and it's not. I'm pronouncing it the Portuguese way. It's not the correct one. And Auschwitz. That's the places that have recorded the highest counts, which have been holding steady at a rating of 5 for as long as they have been measured. The conventional wisdom has always been that extraordinary circumstances create strong background counts. Incidents of great physical or emotional turmoil, be they positive or negative, can warp the magical environment of a place and cause its background count to rise. But in recent months, my lab has reported a disturbing trend, a steady global increase in the world's background count. This has been observed in every location that we have measured, from Germany to the Antarctic. Locations that used to be neutral now carry a measurable background count of 1.2. And those high-count locations, like Hiroshima and Auschwitz, they have exploded into full-fledged mana storms. And this brings me back to the... What happened? Why Sydney, though? What the heck? What happened in Sydney that would make... Is Sydney, like, a very important city in terms of... Does it have a past that is... What? I don't know Sydney to be like a city... I don't know. I don't know enough of Australian history. And this brings me back to the trouble that we're all in. Though that term might be underselling it a bit. Deep shit is probably closer to the mark. The higher the world's background count rises, the less predictable magic will behave. The spells and rituals that we all rely on are already beginning to fail us. If we do nothing, it is conceivable, maybe even probable, that magic will become too dangerous to use within our lifetime. And if we can no longer use magic, it will in turn become impossible for us to solve the problem. Back in my lab, Dr. Hansen is still staring. Quote, "You need to get the word out about this, Liz," unquote, he tells me. Quote, I'll back you, rather. The community needs to know, unquote. He's right, of course. We as a community need to pool our resources to find a way to reverse this trend, and we need to do it quickly. If we do nothing, we might soon find ourselves outpaced by a rapidly changing magical environment, unable to adapt to the world as it changes around us. Quote, in trouble, unquote, indeed. Dr. Elizabeth Alder. Yeah, you're definitely doomed, because you have learned your lesson already and know how exactly this sort of stuff is dealt with. So, we also have a crime wave over here going on. Oh, it's another report over here. Horizon Corporation newsroom flickers onto the screen. The anchor wears an easy smile, but there is no warmth in his eyes. As if, what the heck's warmth in the eyes? People can tell, apparently. Troubling news out of Geneva today. The United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime has released its annual report on international violent crime statistics, and according to its findings, violent crime across the globe has nearly doubled since September 2054. Surprisingly, this increase in violence has been steady across the board. It doesn't matter where you go, the murder rates there are climbing. Even historically low crime countries such as Monaco and Liechtenstein have been impacted by this. The pandemic of violence respects no borders. Now, the report doesn't speculate as to why the world has become more violent in the past year, but on popular Matrix sites, conspiracy theories are running wild. This is kind of interesting. Feels like this news report feels like it's them being caught by surprise. You would know that the crimes have been doubling, because you would be reporting on them, right? It's not like maybe Now, it's not like, you know what I mean? It's not like, oh, the cases of malaria have doubled this year. And I'm like, that's a problem. No, it's the crime rate. It affects everybody, especially in the world of Shadowrun. There's a lot of crime. You wouldn't know. Or maybe that's why they don't know. You know, there's a lot of crime. They wouldn't know. It's just, some more crime. Anyway, that's right, John. According to one user, he went by the name of Rolling Thunder. They're literally doing, well, newsrooms do this. Newsrooms, I say newsrooms, but journalists and stuff do this. It's just, look at this tweet over here. According to this tweet, who's published by somebody completely unaccountable, the attacks are being caused by alien rays. They're driving us crazy, he wrote, getting us to kill each other before they invade. That is quality journalism right there. Another poster who chose to remain whatever. This doesn't even feel like satire. It just feels like it's for our benefit as players to know what people are feeling, but it doesn't feel that this is the right way to do it in regards to, because it's a newsroom, so it's accidentally portraying the journalism as just super shoddy, which is, again, it would normally be satire and appropriate at that, but it doesn't feel like it. Anyway, another poster who chose to remain anonymous, or so you think, said that magic was the culprit. Every time something crazy happens to the world, magic is to blame. Whatever the cause, the trend doesn't appear to be slowing down. Just this morning, a mass shooting in the Cass state of Arkansas left 22 dead and another 15 wounded. Oh, that's back to that's normal. It's normal stuff in the US. Don't worry about that. We'll have more on that story when we come back. Music begins to blare, and then the screen cuts to static. You find yourself back at the main menu. And then we have the parazoological threats. The rising tide. I'm standing in the laboratory of Dr. Jacob Okini, head zoologist at the Institute of Primate Research in Karen, Kenya. Strapped to a reinforced examination table is a creature unlike anything I've ever seen. The thing is approximately the size and shape of a gibbon, I believe, but it has 6 mouths arranged in a ring around a pale, grub-like head. It's disgusting. Dr. Okini sees my reaction, and he laughs. What you see now is nothing, he tells me. When it was alive, it killed 6 men, ripped the faces and genitals off 2, and bathed the other 2 in some sort of caustic fluid, and all the while it was laughing. Laughing, I ask. Like hyena laughing? No, it was laughing like a man, he says. He must see my brow furrow because he continues on. This was not a simple animal, Dr. Alder. It acted with purpose when it killed those men, and the only surviving witness tells me that it grew fat on their screams. Sure enough, the creature's belly does look distended. I know that the thing is dead, but that doesn't stop me from edging away. Dr. Okini goes on to tell me that many similar creatures had been captured throughout the jungles of Nairobi. Isn't that the capital? No, maybe it isn't. I don't know. Isn't that the capital of Kenya? Do you have jungles in the capital? I mean, it makes some sense. And it's not, cities are not the same all over the world. Anyway, monkey-like things with bizarre mutations and vicious temperaments, but each has been different enough from the others to defy classification. This one had a cluster of eyes and an extra set of legs, while that one had a coat of quills and the rasping mouth of a lamprey. Lamprey? It's a creature of the sea, I believe. The emergence of magic some 40 years ago put a new wrinkle into biological field work, Dr. Okini tells me. New species are being discovered all the time, but this is something different. These creatures that have been popping up recently fall outside any meaningful system of classification. And what's more, I have conducted enough autopsies on them to know that they do not belong here. I press him for clarification on that point. He says, what I mean to tell you is that their internal anatomy is all wrong. It doesn't even make sense, he explains. These creatures could not exist were it not for magic. And 6 months ago, I would have told you that they could not exist at all. The story is the same across the globe. Strange creatures of myriad shapes and descriptions appearing out of nowhere, acting with intelligence and malice, killing for the pleasure of it. When comparing the results of my own magical research to Dr. Okini's observations, an unsettling picture begins to emerge. As I reported in the last edition of SMQ, the magical background count of the world is rising, and the more mana that saturates our environment, the more of these strange creatures we see. These things, whatever they are multiplying, and they're getting bigger. If we, as a community, fail to find a solution to this problem, we'll have much bigger things to worry about than our ability to practice magic. The ecosystem of our planet is changing around us. The one-way flow of mana into our world is making the Earth less and less suitable for human habitation, and more suitable for the horrors that are invading our world. The clock is ticking, people. We are running out of time.